scores or math equations here. Instead, we're diving into the daily habits and social behaviors of highly intelligent people. I want you to think of the intelligent mind not as some boring textbook, but as a hidden supercomputer, and it's running on an entirely different operating system than the rest of us. It's got its own unique processes, its own quirky habits, and yeah, its own unique costs. Okay, let's dive into this. So, what does a genius actually look like? I want you to just picture a typical genius in your head right now. What do they look like? How do they act? I mean, most of us immediately imagine this fast talker, right? Someone with lightning quick reactions who just always has an immediate answer ready to go. We picture that loud, obvious, show-off type of intellect that you can spot from literally a mile away. But the research paints a fascinatingly different picture. Highly intelligent people rarely fit that mold. They usually aren't loud, and they certainly don't rush to show off. In fact, you've probably interacted with several of them today. Or hey, maybe you are one of them, just flying completely under the radar. Because there is a massive gap between the stereotype and the reality. The societal myth tells us that intelligence is all about how much you visibly know. But the reality? Real intelligence is actually about how you process the world. It's hiding right in front of us, in details that might seem totally ordinary, or honestly, sometimes even a little bit odd. It's hidden in unconventional habits, seemingly messy routines, and a whole lot of quiet internal processing. Section 1. The power of self-talk, a cognitive tool. Have you ever caught yourself, or maybe someone else, just mumbling out loud while trying to figure something out? From a social perspective, we tend to view talking to oneself as a bit odd, or maybe even a sign of losing it a little. But we absolutely need to reframe this, because for a high IQ mind, this isn't a sign of instability at all. Researchers call this externalized thinking. According to studies from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the University of Pennsylvania, putting your thoughts into words actually helps you focus better. Speaking out loud activates your working memory right through that auditory channel. Think about that high IQ supercomputer brain running dozens of complex thought processes at the exact same time. It creates a massive mental traffic jam. By speaking out loud, they are literally forcing that messy, high-traffic flow of abstract ideas into a clear, linear, and highly logical structure. The Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman is absolutely legendary for this. He actually developed what's known as the Feynman technique, and a core part of it was explaining complex ideas out loud to himself. For a brilliant mind like his, self-directed speech wasn't just some weird quirk. It was a rigorous way to test the sharpness of his own thinking. It acts like a filter to instantly spot the gaps in reasoning. So mumbling to yourself, it's actually just your cognitive system actively organizing itself for higher precision.
Section 2. The Night Owl Advantage, an Evolutionary Novelty.
Now, society loves to praise early risers, right? Waking up at 5 a.m. is seen as the ultimate sign of discipline, while staying up late is often stigmatized as lazy or unproductive. But we really need to reframe that. This concept comes from evolutionary psychology, specifically a fascinating study by Satoshi Kanazawa at the London School of Economics. Kanazawa found a statistical link between higher IQs and going to bed later. So why is that? Well, let's look at the ancestral instinct first. That deep-seated programming told us to wake up with the sun just for basic survival. But then there's the concept of an evolutionary novelty. Choosing to intentionally override that instinct, literally staying up late into the night to process complex thoughts, actually requires a much higher level of cognitive adaptation. And the absolutely crucial point here is why they seek out the night in the first place. The brain of a highly intelligent person is incredibly sensitive to stimulation. During the day, there are social interruptions, constant noises, endless demands. But the night provides this rare, quiet environment. It is literally the only time their highly sensitive cortex feels safe enough to just wander freely without being bombarded. It's in these quiet hours that their subconscious can finally start connecting all those scattered ideas to reach full cognitive capacity.
Section 3. Why Geniuses Procrastinate. The Incubation Effect.
And that brings us to a massive societal stigma: procrastination. If I tell you that highly intelligent people are often massive procrastinators, you might naturally think, well, then they aren't that smart. But based on research from the University of Calgary, we need to draw a hard line between two totally different types of delay. On one side, we have passive procrastination. This is your standard delaying caused by simple laziness or avoidance. But highly intelligent people engage in active procrastination. This is intentionally delaying the execution of a task specifically to allow for cognitive incubation. Let me give you my absolute favorite historical example of this. Leonardo da Vinci spent about 16 years finishing the Mona Lisa. 16 years! I mean, to the outside world, that looks like the ultimate delay. People probably thought he was just slacking off. But he kept getting drawn into complex optical research along the way. That delay wasn't laziness. It was his subconscious mind actively incubating, turning a simple portrait into an absolute, timeless masterpiece. Here is exactly how this incubation process actually works for a high IQ mind. First, they are just waiting for the idea to fully cook. Even when they look like they're doing something totally unproductive, like playing a video game, wandering aimlessly around the house, or just going for a walk, their subconscious is aggressively processing the information in the background. Secondly, they often genuinely need the intense time pressure of a looming deadline to trigger enough adrenaline to finally enter a flow state. So they aren't delaying the work. The work is actually happening internally all along. They are simply delaying the execution until the solution is 90% complete in their minds. Section 4. The cost of brilliance, the psychological and social trade-offs. Now, running a brain at this level of intensity is not some perfect superpower. It comes with some very real trade-offs. Operating this hidden supercomputer can be completely exhausting. For example, do you absolutely hate the sound of a ticking clock? Or does someone typing loudly or chewing their food nearby drive you completely crazy? Well, you aren't just being difficult. Scientists at Northwestern University have identified a neurological trait called leaky sensory gating. Normally, a brain has a filter that easily blocks out unimportant background noise. But highly intelligent brains often have a much less strict filtering system. They simply cannot ignore surrounding sensory information. Their brain literally takes absolutely everything in. So when we group these traits together, you really start to see the immense cost of optimizing a brain for high-level logic. That leaky sensory gating, it leads directly to sensory overload. Then there is analysis paralysis, where an intelligent person might take 10 whole seconds of awkward silence just to answer a really simple question because they are actively running thousands of simulations of cause and effect in their prefrontal cortex. Then there's their notoriously selective memory. A genius might memorize thousands of digits of pi but completely forget where they put their car keys simply because their brain ruthlessly deletes low-value daily details just to save space. And finally, based on clinical psychology, they experience deep emotional overexcitabilities. They don't just think deeply, they feel deeply, making them highly vulnerable to emotional overload. These aren't weaknesses, guys, they're just the literal costs of having a hyper-responsive inner world. Section 5. The ultimate intelligence test. The need for cognition. All of these quirks we've talked about, the self-talk, the late nights, the active procrastination, the sensory overload, they all build up to the single most important indicator of true intelligence. As Albert Einstein once said, "I have no special talents, I am only passionately curious." While that is a remarkably humble way to phrase it, it reveals the ultimate truth. Real intelligence is not about an IQ score on a random piece of paper. It's not about being a human calculator. It is about a shockingly high tolerance for uncertainty. It's a never-ending engine of curiosity that drives a person to constantly ask the why behind the why. A truly intelligent mind never assumes it knows everything. It literally keeps the wonder of a child when facing the vast unknown. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. If you have the patience to sit through this explainer, to deeply analyze your own habits, to tolerate the sheer noise of the world while trying to understand your own inner workings, well, that itself is proof of a high-functioning mind. It shows you have the profound curiosity to ask yourself, who am I really? The fact that you are willing to explore the complex, sometimes entirely messy supercomputer inside your own head is the absolute ultimate sign of genius. Thank you so much for diving into this with me. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.